On today's episode of the Drift Car Build-Off presented by Spec Clutch and Coil,
we bolt up some fresh new coilovers from Fortunato and these big old steamrollers from Konig and Zestino. As sad as this makes me, Peter, it's time to take off these Volk RE30s. They're awfully nice, but like we talked about before, they're too nice for a drift car. And frankly, too expensive for a drift car too. So let us get to these coilovers and see what kind of shape they're in. Like we talked about before, we really like the Fortunatos from a ride quality and tunability standpoint for both the street here and for the track. So you can see that we have gigantic AP brakes on here, which is a pretty ballin' setup for a drift car. It's probably a huge overkill, frankly, for what we're going to be doing. So I don't know if we're going to leave. I think we'll leave them on the car, frankly. It's going to be too much work to swap the stock ones from the donor car over here to what we've got here. So as you can see, we've got these Buddy Club coilovers in here, and having lived in Arizona, they actually look really good. But we know from previous experience that they're going to ride pretty stiff. So we're just going to go to a more compliant setup, a more tuner-friendly setup, and that means undoing a few bolts. Let's start with that, Peter. Top bolts and bottom bolt out. And to get the coilover out, we figured the quickest and easiest way was to pull the bolts out of the upper control arm here so that we can kind of swing the knuckle out of the way. And that should let us get this out of here like that.
It's nice that we don't have that fender on, huh?
That is handy, having the fender off.
We putting that back on soon, DP, or what?
We are, yeah. We decided to repaint that fender since it had really weird paint damage on it. We think it was either from battery acid or maybe brake fluid, but it had eaten through the paint completely, like right down into the steel. So it just wasn't gonna look great with the freshly painted front bumper and hood. So we took the fender off and took that over to Luke at 242 Customs as well. So yeah, the whole front end's gonna look pretty fresh. These are our 500 series Fortunato coilovers, and these aren't just any 500 series ones either. These are ones that I built myself, kind of, sort of, with professional supervision. You might even say adult supervision at Fortunato's facility in Virginia. They're in Virginia somewhere. We went on a road trip to Sickie Manufacturing, and then we went down to visit our friends at Fortunato to take a tour. As a matter of fact, we'll throw a link to the tour up here. And meanwhile, let's cut to the footage of me assembling these at their factory. I can see they've got our E46 coilovers packaged and ready to go here.
For those.
But somehow my 350Z coilovers aren't quite ready. I think they want to put me to work here, make me earn it a little bit. So this is our main man, Jake. He's going to teach me how to build this thing. So where do I start, Jake?
Well, we take the shock body.
All right, take the shock body.
Here's a lower mount.
Lower mount, put that on first.
Screw that on.
I should be able to do that.
Pretty much work from the top when you put the ring and stuff on.
Okay, first ring there.
Yeah, put it all the way down to the...
Do I have it the right side up? Is there a right side up on that?
I don't think there's a right side up.
All right, just put it on there. All right, look at this. Am I hired yet or what?
Wow.
Put that
This is for the brake line?
Yep.
She just slides over. I like that.
Over, you can tighten up with one of those tools.
The little guy or the big guy? All right.
We put the next locking ring on.
Okay.
You don't get quite all the way down with that.
Okay.
Maybe got right back here or something.
Okay.
And then you take the spring
perch. Okay.
And then you take one of the black rings there and put it on top of there.
Okay.
Then we got the bump stop.
So is that like a bushing that lets the spring turn?
Yeah, it's so the spring don't be binding.
Won't bind up. Okay. This guy goes on next.
Yep. And then dust boot.
Dust boot. All right. Like that.
And then you take your spring.
All right. This is our top mount, obviously.
Yep. And then
nut.
Put the nut on there.
All right.
You're going to want to blip it like 2 or 3 times.
2 to 3 ducks. Okay. It's a technical. Oh. Do I have to hold anything or hold it up there?
Top hat.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
That's it.
All right. Then you take your clicker cap here.
My clicker cap. Oh, I like the way you call that, a clicker cap. So
Is that pretty quick or what?
Yeah, I'm just that good.
Dust boot in there.
Oh yeah, I got the dust boot a bit tangled up in there.
Control.
Look away, look away, everyone, look away. All right, we're good now. We're good. So what do I do now? Put it in the box? Am I done?
Oh no, you gotta.
Oh wait, I gotta sign the certificate because that authenticates the fact that this was built by a professional, right? As you saw, I even got to sign my own certificate of authenticity. Look at that. Quality inspected by the DP. You want all your stuff quality inspected by the DP, by the way, but I can't be everywhere at once. Before I throw that in there, I will quickly recap some highlights on this 500 series, which is like their entry-level street use primarily in mind for it, but it's also, as we've found out from our own testing, very capable on the racetrack. You got to crank them up to like near full stiff to kind of flatten them out on the racetrack. But when you turn them down, they're really compliant on the street, which we really appreciate here on our rough Canadian roads. And with the new Generation 6 valving, they have 35% more adjustability through the dampers. So I think that'll mean we'll be able to control body motions even better than we could before. So let's throw these on there. These are single-way adjustables, by the way, so they're really only adjustable for rebound, but they do make Pro 2-ways and Pro 3-ways, and the beauty of their modular system is you can send them back your 500s and say make them 510s or make them Pro 2-ways or make them Pro 3-ways, and they're able to reuse a lot of these components and keep costs down for you that way. So it's a truly customizable, rebuildable, and upgradable system. So we think that's pretty unique and pretty awesome to see that product. And American made too. They use a lot of quality components, as you saw in the tour video from Sweden. They poach all the best parts they can to make these really high quality where it needs to be, and then they save money in other places for little bits and bobs that you can get from China and still does the job. So, throwing these in the hole, Peter, we're going in. As you saw from our handy dandy time lapse, that is a pretty easy install. It's 1 bolt in the bottom, 2 bolts up here, three nuts up top, and that's it. Brake line's on. We put a bit of preload in the spring, as you should, just to prevent it from rattling around. I think Fortunato specifies putting like about an 1/8 to 1/4 inch of preload in the front springs, which is easily done with the collars here. We've locked that down. And by the way, spring rates, we went with a 12K front, 8K rear rate on this car based on Fortune's recommendations for a drift setup. And they even valved these with their DF valving profile. And I'm pretty sure DF stands for drifting. So we'll see how that works out. All right, PT, I think it's time we move out to the back. Time to remove the rear suspension, and as you can see, these are a true coilover setup. So here's our non-true coilover, but still fully adjustable rear suspension setup, separate shock and spring, and as you can see with the spring, we have this coilover, although the coil isn't going over anything, but we have this ride height adjustable collar here with the spring and a lower mount and the rubber OE isolator on the bottom. This replaces the giant rubber bump stop isolator that goes on the top. This bolts in the stock location. Let's have at it. The one other difference for you like super suspension tuning nerds about going to a spring on shock versus a spring down here is that you're changing the spring's location. You're moving the spring further inboard here on the OE setup. And that means the effect the spring has on the wheel is lessened. The further inboard the spring goes, the less effect it has at the wheel. So you need more spring back here to achieve the same wheel rate as the spring here. So that's something that Fortunato factors in when they recommend their spring rates, and that's something you should factor in when you're choosing spring rates for your car, whether you go to a true coilover or spring on arm down here. So that's it for Dave's Nerdfest on spring rates. Let's move on to some bodywork. We just sent the wheels and tires up the road to our friends at NV Auto for a quick mounting and balancing. So before we put those on the car, we figured it's time to put the body back on. We got the fenders and bumpers and all of that back from our buddy Luke at 242 Customs, who did his best to paint match it based on us giving a paint code and saying, just slap some paint on there. So this isn't his usual show car standard of paint, but it's actually still really impressive.
Well, he turned it around in like 2 days.
He did,
so.
and there's still like way better paint quality on this than the factory car has as far as like orange peel and stuff goes. This is like a mirror finish by comparison. So let's see how close the paint code got to being a match. Throw this fender on here. Let's see where we're at. There you go. And
It's close.
it's close. It is a little lighter, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is just a little bit brighter, but that's the way it goes. I mean, paint codes are not that precise when it comes to matching a factory paint. There's always a little variation. So unless he was to come and like blend it in, there was no way we're going to get a perfect match. And I just pulled this front passenger side wheel well liner off of the parts car because our Arizona car didn't come with them. Probably because drift life. These probably wouldn't survive very long on a drift car, but we're going to put them back anyway because there's lots of like exposed brake lines and wiring in there, so we figured we might as well try to cover it up, and we're not running a crazy aggressive front wheel and tire package, nor are we running like a crazy angle kit. So I think these will probably survive, but because this car was in an accident, it's got like a big tear in it that I'm going to patch up with some zip ties. She's all stitched up, ready to go into her new home.
Oh, look at that work, DP, like a surgeon.
I know, but more, surgeon, Ken Wagon, where are you? More importantly though, look at this, Peter. There's a Z on the liner.
Oh, wow.
Or as we say in Canada, Z.
I like the Z, the American way.
It seems more like this car is a Z somehow. But maybe that should be the name of the car. We should call him Zed, the 350Z. Kind of like Connie Celica, the Celica.
A bunch of people in the comments said that.
I think we got to call him Zed. We got a name. Woo! All right, I'm stoked. Things are heating up here. We are getting ready to bolt up our wheel and tire package. As we showed you guys in, I think, the first episode, we've gone with a Konig Dekagram wheel. The fronts are a 18 by 9.5 plus 25 spec. And these are a flow formed wheel. So if you don't know much about flow forming or casting or forging wheels, I actually wrote a story on our website that you can go and check out, speed.academy. It goes into a lot of detail about the differences in wheel manufacturing methods, but what you need to know about flow forming or what's sometimes called spin forging, there's a bunch of different names for it, but Konig calls it flow forming. And basically what it does is it takes a cast wheel and then puts it in a specialized machine that spins the wheel and actually both compresses and pulls the barrel area wider. So they're able to start with a more narrow cast wheel and then stretch the barrel out to make it to its final shape. And what that does is it sort of realigns the molecular structure of the steel, of the aluminum, so that it's both stronger and stiffer. And there's obvious benefits to that too. By starting with a narrower cast wheel that you stretch out to its final shape, it's also lighter. Typically it's about 25% lighter than a cast wheel. So you get a lighter wheel, a stronger wheel, and a stiffer wheel, and it's at a very affordable price point versus, say, a forged wheel. So you get a lot of value for your money. You get a relatively lightweight wheel. This 18 by 9.5 weighs about 19.5 pounds, which is really competitive against, say, a forged wheel of the same dimension. So I think they're a pretty killer way to go for a race car where you need an affordable wheel because it's going to get beat on hard and you may have to replace it, but you also want all the performance you can get. So you want the lightness, you want the stiffness, you want the strength. One other thing worth mentioning too with flow forming is that they have that process creates a wheel that has excellent elongation properties. Elongation meaning it's able to sort of bend before it reaches a breaking point. And that's important for safety basically. Like let's say you hit a pothole, this wheel will bend before it'll break where a cast wheel might break and you can actually have a catastrophic failure of the wheel. So actually before we go up back, we should have a quick chat about our tire choice, shouldn't we? Let me just turn this way. All the steering lock we had right now, and that's something we may or may not address. To be honest, we don't have any like crazy angle kit plans at the moment. We just want to go and drift these cars as is and see how they work for us.
That's like stage 2.
Yeah, that'd be stage 2, I guess. But for tires, we have opted to go with Zestino, which is a more motorsport-oriented brand that started in Japan. In fact, they're used by a lot of the most famous D1 Japan drivers that I'm sure you guys know all about. And locally, they're actually used by our buddy Pat Sear, who's a very well-known drifter. He uses them both on his A86, and he's now using them on his rally car, because they also make a gravel rally tire. So being a motorsports-oriented brand, they only make what they call semi-R compounds, so like 280 tread wear down to 140 tread wear, as well as full slicks, or like I said, the rally gravel tires. So they don't make anything, they don't make any all seasons, put it that way. So they're very focused on performance. For the front of the tire, or for the front of the car, John from Zestino Canada recommended us to go with these Grej 07Rs, which is a 240 rated tire, very sticky. He recommends them for the front axle on drift cars as well as the rear axle on higher horsepower cars. So if you have like, say 500 horsepower or more, he says they're also very good for the rears. But because we're not making that much power, we're actually gonna run a slightly less sticky tire out back. Out back, you can see we're still running Konig Dekagrams. That has not changed, but they are an inch wider. So these are 18 by 10.5s in a plus 18 offset. And I don't know if you can tell, but man, they got all the concave to the face there.
You have that concave.
They are super sexy. If I was building a grip car, I'd be running these up front as well as out back. But with a drift car, we wanted a slightly narrower setup in the front so that we can get more angle into the steering. So We're running 245s in the front and 255s in the back. And as John from Zestino recommended, we've gone with a slightly less grippy tire in the back. So these are the Acrova 07As, which is a 280 tread wear. The fronts are 240 tread wear. And importantly, these have more tread depth, and being a slightly harder compound, they're going to last longer when drifting. So John recommends these for cars that are around 300 horsepower, which is exactly where we're at with both of our cars. And because they're a little bit harder and more tread depth, we should be able to spin these for longer than we could, say, with a stickier, with less rubber that the Gredges have on them. So that's pretty much our strategy on tires for now. John at Zestino is a drifter himself, so we're just going with what smarter people have told us to go with. And we're really excited to try these out because we've never tried anything from Zestino before. So being the tire nerds that we are, it's always exciting to try something new. I should also mention that Zestino Canada has these on sale right now. So if you jump over to their website and you live in Ontario, they've got free shipping. And they've even got some surprise gifts that they're sending out for anyone who buys 4 of these. I don't know what the gifts are, but everyone loves surprise gifts. That's like a thing now. You order these boxes of like mystery gifts. So this is tires with a mystery gift. It's like car guy heaven. All right, Peter, let's bolt these up and finally put this thing on the ground. I don't know about you, Peter, but I think Zed, the 350Z, is looking pretty zesty.
I know,
Look at that thing.
Oh man,
Woo!
look at it.
I am stoked to take this thing for a rip. We still obviously have a lot of work left to do. The ride height needs a little sorting out. We're a little high in the back and maybe a little low in the front. It needs an alignment. Speaking of which, we're going to consult with our homies at MD Auto about a proper drift alignment because we really know nothing about that. We're learning as we go here with everyone, and we hope that you're finding this informative, helpful. You're going to learn from our mistakes as we build our first drift cars and learn how to do skids in these things. So coming up next, I think we got a bunch of interior work to do, including some gauges from AEM, so stay tuned. Give us some thumbs up for more drift car building. Hit the subscribe button if you don't want to miss any of these future drift episodes, and maybe even hit that notification bell so you get an email from us whenever we post a new video.